Oh, and we are live. Welcome into the NACL, everybody. I am Belligerent, alongside my co-caster, whose name I'm not sure of.
And I am B. Wilkes.
There we go.
Sorry about that. Last second mic tweaks.
All right. So we have... Sorry, everybody. We just kind of slipped in here and trying to figure out what teams we have. I can tell you the players. I don't know the team names. Do you know the team names?
I believe is this the second game of Kylin and Industry? Or is this Hazard?
Yeah,
this is Industry versus Kylin.
Industry versus Kylin. And you guys just finished watching game 1, and we're getting ready to get into the draft here for game 2.
So what update are we on? 2.8? So
we are on 2.8, yeah.
Expecting to see the typical Captain Ban, Catherine coming out first, and Grace coming on the B-side.
Yes, the typical Catherine band, or the typical Captain bands. I don't know that I'm a huge fan of it in single band draft. I think you need to focus more on what's going to counter your comp rather than just taking away power picks.
Correct.
First pick there is Lyra, which is a good solid captain. She can fit well into any role. And we have, I'm guessing that's Industry with the boss tag.
Adagio pick, I don't know if they're going to flex him as Roam or put him in lane as Crystal Carry. This update, I've seen more Carry Adagio rather than Roam. Actually, I haven't seen Roam Adagio in I don't know how many updates.
Yeah, Roam Adagio hasn't been very meta since probably the spring season, and especially in this update, his Gift of Fire got a nerf, so he's not going to be as strong of a captain counter to Lyra as he has been in the past. Although Lyra's Sigil did get a nerf, but that's just cooldown, not strength. Adagio's heal strength actually got nerfed. Picked up with the Glaive. The Glaive will pair well with the Adagio because you'll be able to get that Gift of Fire applied on whoever he dives into with his Afterburn. Looks like we have a hiccup in the draft, but it did look like that fourth pick coming out was going to be a Vox. So we have Vox Lyra versus the Adagio Glaive so far.
You know, the Adagio Glaive both can be flexed into a roam position, but the Glaive into Lyra, once Lyra uses her Bright Bulwark, will cancel that Afterburn for Glaive. It can be very tricky.
That is true, but it is a very difficult thing to time. Unless the Glaive is just very projects that he's going to Afterburn, it can be very tricky to bulwark. And if you can bait the bulwark out with a rush or some other ability from another teammate, then the bulwark has quite a long cooldown, which gives that opening for the Glaive.
Correct. So draft reopening.
Yeah, getting back into the draft, we should, I'm assuming, see the same 4 picks come out relatively quickly, although I say that and we're over halfway on the first pick there. All right. Lyra, Adagio, Glaive, Vox. And to round out the first draft will be, what do you think we should see here?
I think we should see Baptiste or Kashka coming out. Wow.
Oh, Kashka coming out. Okay.
Definitely going for that early game. Vox weapon power, in my standing, he's mid to late game. He doesn't have much early game pressure, and Kashka will definitely even that out.
Yeah, I would really like to see a Grumpjaw pick here, flex into Roam and Adagio on the lane.
There's a Baptiste.
But we see the Baptiste, so it is going to be a Captain Adagio, which isn't very meta at the moment, but maybe they can make it work. The Baptiste will, the Batiste, not Baptiste. People get triggered when I say
they do.
So the Batiste will help, at least, I won't say lock down the Kashka, but at least restrict her movements. And the Batiste Glaive combo can be very difficult to work through for movement based heroes such as Kashka and Vox.
So yeah, definitely Glaive going to start in the lane. Definitely needs that book. Although Vox is skipping the book and going straight shield first. As a laner myself, I highly recommend any weapon power. Grab the Book of Eulogies. You need sustain lane, especially against a melee hero who's going to be in your face at all the times.
Yeah, I think the book is a little more important from melee heroes than ranged, but the book also did take a nerf, which affects the ranged heroes more than the melee heroes, I believe. He does have the Lyra to help keep him healed, so he can probably get away with a book or without a book in this match. But yeah, book can be very useful. We do see that Glaive picked up the book as well, which will help give him that sustain that melee laners need here, and some early aggression from the Koshka comp as we expected.
So both carry and jungle from Kylin, both level 2 already, compared to Industry's level 1 all around the board. No CS for Lackness, he just got his third actually. A little skirmish going on in the jungle of Industry, but Glaive afterburns right into Vox, and he will use his flask to heal up a little bit.
The healing flask gives him a nice heal there. It also applies that short barrier, which is really a nice addition over the potions that we used to have. It's kind of a mini reflex block in a way.
Interesting start to Scuba Steve. He does have that heal. His Gift of Fire will be able to sustain a little bit while he just has a flare for vision. I preferably wouldn't like to see that unless the enemy has a Taka or Kestrel, especially a Flicker. But will he rush Contraption or Fountain?
That we'll have to wait and see. I would hope that he would rush Fountain. I think the flare gun is a little bit of overkill here. You do have the Koshka to gank, but you also have a Glaive that has a very easy escape out of it. So I don't necessarily see the need for all the vision that he's prioritizing at the moment. We also see him picking up two scout traps here as well, but now he's starting that Fountain. But he will be behind on the Fountain now because he did prioritize that flare gun.
CS not looking too bad. Only a 2 difference, but after the Glaive clears his lane, he'll be up a few to Vox.
Yeah, the CS is even both in lane and pretty much in jungle as well. Just a 2 CS difference there. And the Glaive is and that's what you want to see out of a melee laner is keeping pace with the ranged laner with the CS. So a little bit of pressure here, 2v1, although Kylin is rotating up. I'm sorry, that's not Kylin, that's Industry. The tags throw me off there.
Got 3v3 coming up, Jack coming in. Glaive going after him back, peel out away for Scuba Steve. Still, I'm not liking this flare gun. That's going to put a lot of time. I'm going to assume a 6-minute Fountain coming out, and that 6 minutes. Once Industry prioritizes Fountain, they have it at 4 minutes. They have the easiest advantage with Lyra heal, the Fountain, and there's no way that Industry can come back from that.
Yes, the flare gun is an interesting pick. I think you'd be better off just buying a few flares to keep you going. He is only about, what is that, about 500 away from completing the Fountain right now. So probably a 5 or 6 minute Fountain, which is a little late, a little behind. And we see them at this moment kind of lacking in the ability to push. They are trying to push in, but the Adagio heal just does not do what it used to do. Everybody's flask is on cooldown, so they will just have to take the frontier and get out, just kind of getting what they can. As where if they had, if they were closer to Fountain, if they had Fountain, they might have been able to push in there for a kill with both Lyra and Koshka really low.
So 4.5 minutes, and Glaive starts off with the Spell Sword. I have never honestly seen this before in any game. let alone endgame build spell sword. He's starting off first item.
I think this is something that we will possibly see becoming more popular. The spell sword with a 35% cooldown reduction is huge. It is also the second strongest weapon power item in the game. You can, in a sense, like if somebody were to go double spell sword glaive, you could almost do the old cooldown glaive with a 5-second cooldown on your afterburn, but also be a weapon power glaive as opposed to the utility. So I'm not surprised necessarily to see it here. It does work well with what Glaive wants to do, especially in the early game where an afterburn takes up about half of his energy, and the spell sword helps negate that.
So yummy catnip frenzy coming out, biting her right in her cat behind, giving a double kill to Pillbox. That's going to give him a good bounty, a lot more gold. He's sitting at 1,300 right now. That can easily be his Shatterglass. We just got to wait for him to buy.
Yeah, so after one more shot, he will have that Shattered Glass, but their turret is taking serious damage, and Glaive is the only one close, although the rest of the team is rotating up behind him. Loch Ness Monster doing the best he can to push this wave back, but still their turret taking a significant amount of damage. It looks probably like about 60% of damage there. Just a little slack in the rotation there.
So 6 minutes in, both teams have fountains now. More vision going to industry, in my opinion. They have mines in the enemy bushes. They have the flare gun. All that's left is who's going to get the first turret, and that, I believe, will decide this game. Scuba now has level 6. There we go. But he does miss the fountain.
Yes, the late fountain coming out allows Loch Ness Monster to unfortunately die to the Vox. And now they have a significant push that they can put here. Pillbox with his Fearsome Shade on cooldown is not going to have any way to disengage this team. And the first turret does go down. And Kylin is still pushing their advantage here, which I like to see.
Loch Ness Afterburn onto Jack 3. He's going to try to chase, but I believe that Kashka is going to be too... Oh, no. She's not mobile enough, and will go down to Pillbox. Vox trying to get out desperately, doesn't know what to do. Almost gets rooted. Loch Ness comes in with the Afterburn to finish the kill. Immortal going to skedaddle away.
So it looked like just a bit of communication, a lack of communication, if there was any communication at all. Lyra throws out the sigil, but Kashka turned around before she got any heal from it, which allowed Loch Ness to catch her before she could get away after she tried to dive in for one more hit. And you see this all too often with teams. They take the turret and they get a little too over aggressive, and they have pretty much just handed the advantage back to the side of industry, giving up 2 kills and the gold mine, and they have no lane pressure right now. So they did take that turret. I think they pushed their luck a little bit too much, trying to push in and be too aggressive. The cooldown timer on Loch Ness was not that long, and I think they overstayed their welcome there.
Correct. And it was more beneficial to industry because they did get the gold miner in this update. The gold miner has been buffed in payout, in health, in damage. 400 gold each. So that's 1,200 gold going to industry. And it's we also have 1 crucible and a reflex block using for 2 potential a silence and a stun.
Yeah, and actually that trade now, because of the changes, is actually a 900 gold swing, because you get an extra 100 for the gold mine, but you get 100 less for the turret. So while Kylin picked up 600 total for the team from taking that first turret, industry was able to get the 1,200 from the gold mine. So even though they got the first turret, they still gave up a significant amount of gold. And we see Vox go down here.
Burst of Judgment, not going to stun anybody, but puts a little bit of damage on Immortal Zero. Pillbox going to go ahead and chase Lyra as best as he can. I believe she'll get out of the way. She does not have her portal up for another minute and some change. Kashka just lingering around, going to stop the minions putting too much damage. Gets stunned up. Possible double stun, but stays into the Wow, what is going on?
And there we saw the great combo that is Glaive and Batiste together, the afterburn into the ordained. It could also be used the other way around, but usually you see the afterburn into the ordained, which effectively repositions your target and then locks them in place, because if they leave the ordained, they just take a second stun.
They're gonna go ahead and start gold mine. Back off now, but it should be at like 250 gold. That's how fast it regains. They just took it 2 minutes earlier, and it's already almost full.
Yeah, it is about 75% full. So you're looking at about 300 gold right now. But they weren't necessarily comfortable taking it. Um, it looks like we may have a disconnect on the side of Kylin, which is unfortunate for them.
Hmm.
Silence has been still for quite a while here. So it is currently a 2v3. Uh, the common saying that players are responsible for their own connection.
That is true.
So Loch Ness pushing the wave here. Industry working to take or continue with their advantage. I don't know if they have realized that Silence is disconnected, or they might be pushing even harder right now.
Yeah, I don't know if they notice or they're wary of where Vox is because he's been gone for a good 2 minutes.
Right. So I think that it might just be they're not sure where he is, rather than knowing that there is the unfortunate disconnect, and so they're unwilling to push their advantage, not knowing where that third member is. A little bit of poke here coming out from Pillbox. We do see Kylan retreat together and just getting some farm here out of the way. So we do see the spell sword and the tension bow on Loch Ness, which will help with the squishy targets that he is facing. Lyra, even though she's a healer and a captain, is not what you would think of as a tank. She's not really a frontline captain, so that tension bow will do a significant amount of damage on her as well. And if you look at the side of Kylan, you will see that there's very little in the way of armor on their team. So this glaive will be doing some serious work in team fights.
So Silence is back into the fold, and looking at Loch Ness's build, he's giving no respect to Vox's damage. No armor, nothing for him. He's just circling around Kasha's burst and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna get you before you guys get me." Ordained going to come out on Kashka. They're going to retreat. They are split up right now. Arcane Passage comes through. Stuns no one. Scoba is now silenced, but he's going to give no cares. They're going to focus on Vox now. Mortal Wound not doing much damage, but Silence is just running for his life.
They are, and this team fight is a little chaotic at the moment. I think that Industry has an advantage here, and I'd really like to see them push it by taking out that Crystal Sentry. They also have the gold mine as an option, which it looks like they're going to go for. I am a fan of seeing teams prioritize that Crystal Sentry, especially now, even though it does quote unquote less damage with the faster attack speed and the slow. I believe it is much more of a significant addition to the map than it was in the previous patch. So I'm a fan of teams using any advantage they can to eliminate that target off of the map.
So watching these team fights, it seems to me that Industry is more synchronized. They have better communication. You can tell the team's communication by how the room plays, how he's positioning himself with the lane and the jungle at the same time. Kylan, they seem to get a little bit split here and there, not knowing where to go, what to do. Is this a skill gap problem or a communication error?
It could be either, really. It's hard to know what their communication is without being in their team comms. And I have absolutely no idea what either team's skill tier is, but I do agree that there seems to be a little bit of disconnect on their team. We pointed it out earlier with the early game fight where Koshka didn't jump in the sigil, and we have a team fight breaking out here. Silence is going in after Jack jumped in, but then dashed right back out. Scuba Steve taking some serious damage. Pillbox is just going to poke here.
Both teams have all activatables: Crucible, Fountain. No Atlas for either team yet, which is very surprising. After we're going to come out, Loch Ness does get hit by the. Oh man, Pillbox going to go ahead and Fearsome Shane gets blocked up. Arcane Passage coming through, stuns no one, and that will be it for Scuba Steve if he does not escape, and that'll be an ace for Kylin. Kasha going ahead and give all the damage.
It will be an ace, and you see the weakness there of the Adagio captain position in this current meta as it stands. His Gift of Fire just doesn't do enough healing, and with a dive comp like Kyland is running with the Kashka, Vox is very good at diving, and then you also have the Lyra portal to help with the dive. There is absolutely no appeal on an Adagio captain, especially if the Crucible is up for Kylan. So they were able to just rush right past Scuba Steve, take out Loch Ness, take out Pillbox, and clean up finally with Adagio there.
So Kylin still sitting on a level advantage right now. Loch Ness and Pillbox both hit level 12. Meanwhile, Scuba just hit level 11. Another fight going to break out. Kashka going to go really low. Afterburn connects on Akashka. Arcane Passage going to come through. Stuns the Rome. Good Crucible and Fountain coming out, but still, this Rome is not capable of taking the damage to this late game Vox. Kasha going ahead and get the double kill while Vox just kiting away and getting hit by the Crystal Sentry, but it does survive. Another ace coming out back to Kylin.
Wow, Kylan looking like right as soon as we started critiquing their communication, they pulled it together. They're taking some serious team fights, and it looks like they may even try to push for the win here.
Like I said, this Weapon Vox is a mid to late game hero. Despite him being AFK, he was still able to get the items, get the stacks up into team fights, survive long enough with the heals from Lyra, and end the game properly.
And Kylan takes game 2 there with some very clean team fights in the end. And I think you just saw the weakness of the Adagio captain in this current meta playing a big factor in that match.
More so, the Adagio captain, I really did not agree with the spell sword. I understand that Afterburn does take a lot of energy, but you could have used any other Sour Blade, Tyrant's Monocle, Bone Saw to cut through the defense. I'm just not a fan.
I, on the other hand, am kind of a fan of the spell sword. I don't think that's why they lost, because when Loch Ness was going and he was doing damage, the problem was as soon as we complimented the communications or critiqued the communications of one team, it's like the roles swapped. And when Kylan would dive in, I saw often that Loch Ness would afterburn in and completely separate himself from his team. So Kylan was able to have their way with whichever set of heroes they wanted to go after. Um, and without the armor there, I don't think that any other item would have helped. Like a bone saw isn't going to do you much good when there's no armor to shred. A sorrow blade could have done more damage, but um, I don't think that was necessarily the factor. I think that there was just too much damage and too much heal on the side of Kylan.
Yeah, nonetheless, great performance on both teams. Congratulations, Kylin, for the 2-0 victory. Can't wait to see what's coming up next.
And I don't know who took game 1, so I don't know if this is going into a game 3 or if we are on to the next.
Kylin won game 1.
Okay, so that's the win for this series, and I believe there's another one coming up next.
Hazard Rice, if I'm seeing correctly.
So we are in between sets here. You said we have Hazard coming up next. I think I saw them play a day or two ago.
So you mentioned earlier you'd like to see a Grumpjaw come through. Why is that?
Well, because when Grumpjaw was very meta back in the spring season, he was one of the main counters to the Koshka.
Okay.
And I don't like the Adagio captain. And so I think if you had lain the Adagio and put a weapon Grumpjaw there, you could have fought back against that early game aggression that the Koshka offers.
Yeah.
and I would have liked to see that pick come out instead of the Batiste. They worked the Glaive Batiste well. I just think that there's but no matter how well you work that combo, there's no way that the Glaive Batiste combo is going to shut down the Koshka early game, because after that combo comes out in the early game, there's not enough damage between Batiste and Glaive to really shut down the Koshka. I don't remember what the exact stats were, but I don't think Koshka took too many deaths in that game, and I don't think too many of them were in the early game either.
Okay.
So that's why I would have preferred a Grumpjaw pick there at the end. The Batiste is a decent counter to the Koshka. I personally am more of a fan of a Captain Batiste to counter Koshka,
Yeah.
because when you are a jungle Batiste trying to counter a Koshka, you are their target. And so once that Ordain goes down, they're coming at you. Also, when you're a Captain Batiste, you are better suited to just throw the Ordain on anybody that you need to keep off of your teammate, gives them a chance to escape. As where when you're a jungle Batiste, you can Ordain them, you can start running away, but you're one of the carries you need to fight. You need to apply that damage. So you're not, and a Batiste is not going to burst down a Koshka fast enough for
Yeah.
that Ordain to just simply stop her.
Whereas a Rome Baptiste, you have that peel aspect with your Ordain and the heal with your Crucible Fountain, etc. While you can burst them down if you do have enough life steal and Fearsome Shade, definitely one of the best ultimates in my opinion that can go with anything. Put it into it with a Gauntlet, with an Afterburn, with Yummy Cat and Frenzy. It works miraculously with any comp.
Correct. And with the Captain Batiste, there is the opportunity to echo the fear, as where a jungle Batiste is typically not going to build echo because he needs to be that damage dealer for his team.